This trip is very important to Dad and me. It could mean a lot of new work for us. Then, I promise, you, me, Spence and Dad on other trips. Other trips. As the fields and trees whizzed by, Hedy put her headphones on, cuddled into her mum's stripy scarf, and imagined herself in Egypt, gazing up at the Great Pyramids and the Sphinx. But out of the corner of her eye, she noticed Dad glancing at her to see if she was listening to them. When he turned back round, she hit pause on her music, suspecting he might be about to say something interesting. "They'll be okay with him, won't they?" Dad was asking softly. "Of course," Mum said. "He may be preoccupied and funny about his things, but he won't let any harm come to them." "Isn't this the time of year your mother?" Dad trailed off with a sympathetic look. Mum sighed. "It'll be good for him to have some company there. He never stays long when he visits us." At long last, their little red car stopped in the centre of Marbury's Rest. It was a sleepy, higgledy-piggledy village, dotted with only a few small shops. Although it had the feel of a place that never changed, Hedy's family were confused by the five-way junction at its centre every single time. "Why can I never remember the street?" Mum muttered. "Give me a second," Dad said, as he tried to get the map working on his phone. Spencer had exhausted his pocket's usual stockpile of lollies and started munching the last of his cheese sandwiches, as though he thought they would be there for a while. Hedy spotted a large white bird circling overhead. Now it came flapping towards them. "Is that a white raven?" she breathed. Closer and closer it flew until, to everyone's shock, it landed on the bonnet of the car. It was enormous, bigger than the ones Hedy had seen at the Tower of London. It tilted its head to the side, as though sizing them up, then cawed. With a lazy flap, it took off down one of the narrow streets. They all stared. Mum seemed frozen to her seat, too surprised to move. The raven circled back and landed on the bonnet of the car again. It hopped close to the windscreen and gave Mum a stern look, then propelled itself down the narrow street once more. Hedy had a funny, thrilled feeling where her ball of gloom had been. "It's like it wants us to follow it," she said. "I don't know about that," Mum said, "but I think it's the right street." She put the car in gear, and they followed the raven all the way to Grandpa John's house. Although they hadn't visited in a long while, the house was exactly as Hedy remembered. 3 floors of pale stone, with a dark roof rising steeply into the sky. On the roof were carved stone creatures and a short tower, which Mum said was called a belvedere and was built to show off the view, but which Hedy thought of as a turret from which you could watch the enemy approach. Nestled deep in the shadowy porch was a black front door. The garden, behind a wrought iron fence, was strewn with leaves and snow. There was none of the hustle and bustle of their own home, or the homes of Hedy's friends. But it wasn't unfriendly, exactly. It was more like Grandpa John's house was taking a long time to think before it started speaking. The white raven that had led them here, Hedy was sure it had been leading them, flew up to the roof and settled up there amongst the other small statues that were more fantastical, like dragons and griffins. Hedy gave Spencer a nudge and pointed. At one of the windows on the top floor stood Grandpa John, his white hair sticking up in untidy crests. His face crinkled into a smile, and he stepped back from the window, disappearing from sight. In the very next moment, faster than anyone could cover the distance, he was opening the heavy front door. Spencer's mouth popped open, and Hedy blinked in surprise. Grandpa John smoothed down his shirt buttons and then did a nimble turn all the way round to face them again. To their astonishment, he was now wearing a brightly coloured tie. "Ladies and gentlemen," he called in his deep, warm voice, "welcome." The children crowded around Grandpa John to give him a hug. He smelt of peppermints and pipe smoke, as always. Hedy secretly measured how tall she was, pleased to find she was now up to Grandpa.